stories. And I also wanted to share, anybody else have a story they want to share? Anybody have something else that's worked for them this week? I'm so glad you're all here. I am just full of stories because it's been an interesting few weeks this summer. But a dear friend of mine has had an itching problem, and she said she's had it for 20 years and the doctors cannot figure it out, and that it appears in different places on her body. It's probably going to end up being something internal that I'm going to help her with. But I gave her Correct-X, just a small tube of Correct-X to try. And she texted me 2 days later and said she was getting relief. And to have gone to a doctor for 20 years and tried different things and had this annoying itching, I'm sure we're not at the root cause of what she's got going on, but what a blessing to have Correct-X to help her out with her issues. So anyway, the stories just keep coming, and I've got like 3 more to share, but I'll save them for next week. It's been a lot of fun. I am so glad you're here and so glad that Deb's with us today. Deb is a school psychologist, and she has, I wrote down notes about Deb, and now my notes are gone. Where are they? Deb has 2 boys. She is awesome. She is a bundle of smiles. If you know Deb, you're lucky because she just has a way of making you feel good when you're around her. She's a school psychologist for 23 years, and she knows her stuff. We are really blessed to have her here to talk to us today. She is also a cancer survivor. I'm not sure if she'll mention some of that in some of her presentation, but if you needed an example of someone getting through tough times and how to handle it with grace, it would be Deb. She is quite amazing. So we are going to turn the time over to Deb for some wonderful information. And thanks for being here, Deb. We appreciate it.
Table needs to be clean.
I'm gonna mute some of our people and try not to mute Deb. Let's see if I can.
Just mute everyone and then I can unmute.
Oh, that's a good way to do it. If it lets me do that. Okay, I think we're good. Go for it, Deb.
Thanks, Shalene. Thanks so much for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. When Shalene reached out to me and asked if I would teach a class on coping skills, I was like, heck yeah, I am happy to do that. So, and I love the oils. I've been using them for about 9 years, and I incorporate them both at school and at home. And so, but I just have to give you guys a heads up. Collectively, we are brilliant together. And so I am going to rely on you guys to share any experiences that you have as well, because we can certainly learn from all of our experiences. So I did create a little PowerPoint with some strategies, both with oils and then strategies that we use as school psychologists. And so I put way too much information into the slideshow. So what I think we're going to do is usually this class is about 30 minutes long. At the 30-minute mark, if you need to go, I am not offended whatsoever. Go ahead and leave, take care of yourself. And then if we find that we go a little bit over time, we might just have to have like a part 2, if that's okay, Shalene. Yeah, okay. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you guys. Use system desktop capture. And technology is not my thing. So let's see if this can work.
It's working. We see a different screen.
Do you guys see?
We see your jellyfish.
Okay, I was worried about that. I'm using my son's screen. And so let me see if I can move this over here. And let's go here. Let's go. Where's the slideshow button? There we go. Okay. It changed the setting on me when I moved it over here. How crazy is that? Anyone to make it so it's.
Yeah, if it to take up the page, sometimes that stretch line, maybe. Okay.
Where's the line?
there's a stretch line. Yeah, close to where you are, just down a little bit. Nope, down to the next. Well, yeah, I'm over 1, over 2 now to your right. Yeah, see, oh, no, that's just a line. Okay, on mine, I usually hit a stretch line and it makes it work. So maybe try file.
What's in your tools?
Yeah, let's try file real quick and see. Yeah, maybe tools. Laura's probably right. Just so that you can. Okay, let me try doing it from my, oh, silly me. I have it brought up on mine too.
Okay, hold on.
Slideshow. I got it. I got presenter view. There, you got it.
Now, do you guys see it?
You got it.
Okay, let's switch things around a little bit. We're supposed to get a laptop next month, but we haven't done it yet. So I hope this works out. Okay, so helping children cope. Just a little bit about me. Here's my 2 boys. I'm a boy mom, and one just graduated and one is 14, and he's in the stage that he doesn't like me that much, and that's okay because I'm his mom. And I have been a school psych for 23 years. So what our goal is today is we're going to learn how to teach our kids and youth how to cope with both short-term and long-term problems, right? And the short term, we are going to be incorporating the oils for that, because I don't know how many of you guys have had amazing experiences, but you can see immediately with the oils, some immediate feedback, some immediate responses. And then the long term are going to be some of the strategies that I'm going to teach you, because I know most people can't afford to go to a school psychologist or a counselor or things like that. So I'm going to teach you actually some strategies that we use on a regular basis to help students get to the root of their problem. How does that sound? Sound good?
Yes, excellent.
All right. So with the short term, what I am suggesting is you will want to, I have like a little doTERRA I call it my emotional first aid kit, and I take it with me. I put it in my purse. I take it everywhere with me so that at any point I can address my top 8 emotional concerns, either for me or my kids or people that I interact with. And I've created 8 oils that I use on a regular basis. Everyone is a little bit different in the oils that they use. And so again, that's one of the reasons why I would love for people to put in the chat or to kind of holler out some things that they've been using. But I will show you the 8 oils options that I've been using, and just share a couple stories here at the schools that I've used as well with kids. For those who don't know how to use oils for emotions, there's an easy way to use it. All you have to do is like put a little drop or 2 in your hands and you rub it. Get it all over your hands, lather it up. You can put some fractionated coconut oil if you're going to actually put it in your kids' hands. And then you cup over the nose like this, and you have your child breathe in and out the oils 3 to 5 times. You can go longer if you need to. I've had many students in the school setting that will have panic attacks, and immediately like the kids that I don't know well, I don't put the oils on them because I know their parents, I don't know their parents would be okay with it. But you can just even have them smell it from the bottle, and you just have them breathe it in and out, in and out, in and out. And it can almost be immediate. It is amazing to see just like this urgency in their body, and they just kind of melt. And again, every person is different what they respond to, but what I've used in the schools the most is adaptive. Originally it was made for PTSD situations, but I've noticed it works really well for panic situations. I love copaiba for anxiety. And so when I'm freaking out, I'll put like a drop under my tongue and let it simmer in my mouth. And within a couple minutes, I'm like, okay, All right, we've got this. And so that's an easy way to use oils for emotions is just put a couple drops in your hands, rub it, have them smell it in and out, in and out, in and out. If you have someone who really doesn't like the oils, which I have a couple of those in my family that are like, you know, you can diffuse it. Like if after school they come home cranky and all of that, you can diffuse it or put it on yourself, and they can't complain too much about that. So there's all sorts of ways that you can use them. Here are the ones that I probably use the most and that are in my little emergency kit. For happy, I love frankincense. That is my oil. I know everyone is a little bit different what speaks to them. I love mintiness. It just makes me so happy wherever I'm at. So those are my happy oils. For anxiety, copaiba and adaptive. I have noticed if you have a child who has had some trauma, they haven't, some of them don't like the smell of adaptive, and I have noticed that they really respond to wild orange as well. And so if that's something that's come up, for energizing, eucalyptus is, most people love the smell of eucalyptus, and motivate can really help get your mind in gear for when you need to like move forward on something. For relaxing, most of you guys know about Serenity. Vetiver is great for ADHD brain. So you can put it to help kind of calm your brain. Where you want to put it is on the bottom of your big toe, because reflexology shows that the bottom of the big toe is actually where your brain is. And so I've had a couple nights where I cannot shut my brain off, and my son as well, and we'll just put it on the bottom of the big toe, and within 30 minutes out like that, sometimes even faster. For the moody time of the month, if you have any young women in your family, clary sage is phenomenal. Has anyone found anything else that works really well with that time of the month?
I just wanted to say they put the clary sage into clary calm as a blend, and it's got a couple other great things in there, so it's nice to get it in a roll-on ready to go.
Good. Yeah, I've used clary calm too. For shame is actually a pretty common emotional response that a lot of us have when we feel like we are not enough, when we have we are statements, I am statements. That's when shame is kicking in. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm feeling down on myself. That's shame. Ilang ilang, or however you say it, ilang ilang, is a beautiful flower in the Orient, and it has a way of just kind of pulling you out a little bit. And so that's a great oil. Emotional eating, I do that. I don't know about if you guys do, but sometimes as kids, you know, they will emotionally eat as well. So grapefruit, slim and sassy, you know, we have the Meta Power as well to help out with that. But overall, if you were just to get just a couple oils, the adaptive, lavender, wild orange are probably the go-tos that I use the most. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and see, what do you guys like to use? Is there any like oil that you're like, oh, I tried it once with my child and it worked so well? Does anyone have an oil that they would like to share that's not on this list that has worked well? Because I definitely love to hear stories. And collectively, I think we do have such experiences.
How about balance on the bottom of your feet in the morning before heading out to anywhere?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I call that Zen in a bottle. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, that's a good one. What else?
I love your list, because every time I think of something, I'm like, oh no, she's got that. Oh, she's got that. You've got a really great list here.
Yeah.
So lately, Val has been very scared when going to sleep. Oh, wow, don't.
You're good, Leanne. We hear you.
Okay, I don't know. Okay. And she would say she's really scared and she's lonely, which is really crazy to us, right? Because she has her own bed in our bedroom. and we're right there.
Mm.
But whatever. So I looked up the oil for loneliness, and it is cedarwood. So, which is also good for sleep, right? So we added that to her little cocktail of spray that we put on her Serenity, but wild orange, and now cedarwood.
Ooh,
But
have you seen a difference, or are you still experimenting?
would you? I think it is helping some, but it's only been a few days. We'll see.
Okay.
But now I'm thinking probably I should add vetiver, which we'll see.
Well, and later on in our discussion, I'll also share another strategy that might help you kind of get to the root of what's going on. She might be feeling lonely, you know, maybe she's a little jealous that you and dad share a bed and she's not in there with you. But she might be feeling just scared, and the word lonely is the only word she can think of that kind of describes what's going on. So, and if something pops up that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this experience, please let me know. Shalene, if you can notice in the chat or kind of keep tabs on that, that would be great.
Yes, and Cleveland put in the chat Brave, the blend Brave.
Oh, I haven't used that one that much. I like that.
Yeah, I was
Actually,
gonna, the
go
kids
ahead.
collection, the one that's has all the different colors and roll-ons. My sister-in-law's been using that for her daughter, who is autistic and just has emotional swings. And her daughter's responding very well to the kids oil collection that comes in that little case.
Yay! I am so glad to hear that. That is amazing. Yeah, the kids collection, when I show it to kids at school, I will have them, I'll pull it out. I actually don't want them to read the label because I don't want them to be predetermining what's going to work well for them. And I'll say, I want you to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle. And I have them rate all of the oils, and we'll find their top 3. And then we keep the top 3 close to them so that they can access it whenever they want. So they have a couple options. And sometimes their senses kind of evolve over the school year, and sometimes it stays pretty consistent. So, yeah. All right. Here's the oils, of course. All right. So now let's talk about some of the strategies that we implement to help kids get to the root of the problem. So actually, let me backtrack a little bit. So as far as if your child is freaking out over something, obviously a great strategy is to use the oils to help them calm down immediately, help them kind of get more centered and into a mind frame that helps them to be able to process. So these next steps you probably don't want to use immediately unless that you can tell that they're not escalated and elevated. If they're in crisis mode, do not use these strategies. You'll only get in a power struggle and they'll melt down even more. So you really do, in order to use these next strategies, want to kind of calm them down. So deep breathing with children is so critical for teaching them how to calm their body down. And a lot of times, if you are doing it with them and showing it with them, whether you're telling them or not, because I have teenagers that they would not respond well if I'm like, okay, let's breathe together. That would not go over well. But I model for them, and inadvertently just being next to me and me taking deep breaths, they actually start mimicking my breathing. And so the deep breathing is one of the fastest ways to get into the part of the brain that's not in the fight or flight part of the brain, but actually is in the part of the brain that can calm down, process, and think clearly. So the deep breathing, when I told you, put it in your hands, have them deep breathe, that's going to even accentuate even more. It's going to supercharge that deep breathing even more, and they'll get even faster to the part of the brain that helps them to calm down and be able to process what's going on. So I feel very lucky that we have these oils to help us with this. Okay, any questions so far? None. Ooh, okay. So let's go on to some more strategies. So the strategies I'm going to teach you today is called a neurocycle. We are not going to go through all fancy terms that Dr. Caroline Leaf uses, but she's a neuroscientist. She's been using these strategies for years and years and years. She has a book called How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. It's a great book that you can pre-order. I've been listening to her. She's fantastic. And a lot of these strategies are ones that we've been using in the schools a long time. But it's nice to know that there's neuroscience to back up these strategies. All right, so when you are trying to teach your child coping strategies, which do you think is more important? Do you think directly teaching them and giving them step-by-step directions, or do you think modeling is more important if you were to choose?
It has to be modeling, because I don't think they listen as you give them stuff.
Good point, Shalene. What do other people think?
Same.
Same. Awesome. Modeling is by far the more powerful way to teach. And if you are modeling for your child these strategies, they are naturally going to start picking it up and learning it and asking you questions. So when I say practice these strategies yourself first, please do that, because you are teaching your child inadvertently, but they will learn these are important to you. These are tried and true. These are things that work for you, and they can work for them. And some of these strategies, you'll be like, this seems a little advanced for my 3-year-old. Actually, you can teach these strategies to 3-year-olds. It's going to be more kinesthetic with their hands and things like that, but you can teach these strategies anywhere from toddler up to however old your kids are. But please, as you are taking notes today, just think of how this applies to yourself, how you can incorporate it, because once you've internalized it, it's a game changer, and your kids are going to go, all right, I can do that too. It just naturally, it's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. So before we talk about coping strategies, I just need to do a little reality check that every one of us is a mess. Every one of us. There is not one single person in the world who has not had emotional breakdowns. There is not one person in the world who has not had some sliver of emotional something going on. Like, all of us are a mess. Let's just own it. Let's just own we all are messes. We are not all together all the time. It just doesn't happen. It's not real. It's very unhealthy, actually, if you are constantly stoic and, like, we all have emotional things that happen. Stress happens. And a lot of times when we have, kids around, we can feel like this balloon where we're like, it's just going to take one thing to pop me today, And so I just want us to all give ourselves permission that we are emotional messes. And so I want everyone to read this with me, where we are giving ourselves permission. And this is what I want you to say. I am allowed to make mistakes. Obviously, it's not an excuse, but we are all messes. I'm allowed to be sad or mad or disappointed or, whatever the emotion is. I can help my child or children with their mental health, especially when things are not going well. Especially then. Those are powerful moments. And obviously, we don't want to stay in a messy situation all the time. It doesn't feel good. But what we can do is we can learn to manage our mess. And so the next couple steps I'm going to show you is learning how to manage that mess. Anyone, when you read through that, made you a little anxious, made you go, oh, do I really believe that? I don't know. Am I a mess? Or some of you are like, oh yeah, I don't know. I know I'm a complete mess. There's kind of a spectrum out there, right? But I want you to be okay saying, you know what? I'm a mess today. And it's okay to start your day off and let your kids and husband know, partner know, say, you know what? I am a complete mess. I did not sleep well. I'm super worried about this. Just know I am a mess. And it's okay. It really is okay. All right. So how do we manage our mess that we have? First off, and this is a neurocycle thing, so it's all based on science and how the body works. We want to build awareness of our signals. You're like, our signals? What do you mean? I'll tell you. So let's do a little scenario. Let's say you come home from work or from grocery shopping or whatnot, and your kids have like completely destroyed the family room. There's toys everywhere. Your husband's sitting in the background on his computer doing his own thing, not paying attention to the kids. Nobody has like done any of the chores that you've asked them to do, and the line was so long at the grocery store, or something yucky happened at work, and you are just at your wit's end, and you blow up. You throw your purse, you yell at your kids, yell at your husband, and why are you not supporting, blah, you know, and you just lose it. Which happens. And then you storm off, go to your room, and you're like, I can't believe this. And you just like freak out, right? And you eventually, you use your oils, you calm down, you take the deep breath, you have your space away from everyone. And when you feel like you're not in the escalated, crazy brain, then you come back down. Then you come back and you are going to model for your kids how to manage mess. And you say, you know what? I'm a mess. I'm sorry. I was feeling overwhelmed and irritated over things at work or grocery shopping or whatnot. When I came to the house and saw the mess, my body got even more tense. I was coming home, I was feeling tense on the drive home, and I felt even more tense. And I assumed no one had listened to my instructions while I was gone. That was my perspective. So I yelled and I threw my purse, the action that you took. I acknowledge and I own my mistake. Now, many of us, when we apologize, when we've had our messy moments, don't go through all these steps, right? But here's the dealio. The more of these steps of what your feeling is, what your body was doing, what your perspective was, and what your action was, the more of those that you hit on, the more you're going to the part of the brain that helps you to disintegrate the charged emotions with that. Okay? Let me give you a little bit more information here. So there's 4 main signals to help build awareness of what's going on. And these signals are actually very healthy responses. We teach kids that there's no emotion that is good or bad. There's comfortable and uncomfortable emotions, right? That's how we figure it out. But each emotion and each action that we take and each response that our body has and each thought that we have is just a message. It's just a message. It's neutral. It's not good or bad. It's just telling you something. And so when you are feeling anxious, it's not necessarily a bad thing. When you're feeling depressed, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is just a message telling you something's going on. I want to alert you of something, and let's figure it out. And a lot of times in our American culture, we just suppress and numb emotions. We just suppress and pretend like we have everything figured out. And we don't explore the root of what's going on. We're too afraid to. We're afraid that if we explore our emotions, it's going to be so overwhelming that we won't be able to handle it. And it's true. Sometimes it is. And so sometimes we use medication to kind of numb those emotions long enough that we can explore them. But if we stay on medication and don't explore it, we're never going to get off the medicine. We won't get to the root of things, right? So the more that we can identify, what was I feeling? What did my body feel like? What were some of the thoughts that I had? What was my perspective? And what did I do? Whether it was like something, external, or something I just kind of withdrew and had thoughts of, I don't want to be around these people. The more you can be aware of what's going on internally and externally and talk about it, it is like you have taken this position and you've neutralized it so that it's not going to be stored in your body anymore and you can process it. And they have science to show that the neurons going on in your brain, when you become self-aware, actually start weakening them. And within 63 days of you just building that daily awareness of where you are, it could be like 1 minute here, it could be 15 minutes there, you know, like it could be, but if you're doing that on a daily basis, you are totally rewiring your brain. And even if you have trauma in your past, you still have, there's a lot of science showing that you can still rewire your brain. You're not a victim for the rest of your life. You can actually change things. And so the first step is building that awareness. Now, I'm going to teach you a couple strategies on how to build that awareness, because I don't know about you, when I'm in the moment, I'm not like, my body's feeling tense, you know, like if we are building that awareness, eventually you do start getting more prevention oriented and you start noticing, okay, I'm ready to throw something. I need to leave now. Like you can train your body and mind and pick up on those signals, those cues, those messages faster and be more proactive. But most of us haven't been paying attention to our body. Most of us haven't been paying attention to our thoughts. Most of us haven't been paying attention to and being okay with, you know, I did something that was totally messy and I'm okay with that. And so what I urge you to do is just try to take just a couple minutes every single day to do something to build your awareness. And the more you do that, the more your resilience is going to build. And the more the wiring in your brain is going to change. And the more your kids are going to go, something's different with mom. Something's different with dad. Huh. They're actually walking through this a little bit. And it normalizes when you verbalize what's going on with you. I'm feeling so mad right now. I need to go take a break in my room, because if not, I'm going to do something I'm going to regret. Like the more you verbalize it and let people know what's going on, give them context, the more you're modeling for them what they can do in that moment as well. We just talked about that. So again, these messages, these signals are helpful messengers. Like when I say depression, it's not like everyone's like, I need to fix my depression, right? That's what the world has been trained us to think, is we need to squelch it. We need to fix it. Well, guess what? Just see it as a signal, as a message saying, you know what? There's some things going on that aren't jiving with what are my values or what's important to me or what I was expecting. I want to start paying attention to how my body feels when I feel depressed. Because the more you are aware of that, the more you're paying attention to your thoughts of, I'm a complete pile of doo-doo, you know, like these are things to be explored. And when you start exploring it, you can get to the root of it. How am I on time, Shalene? I don't have my watch in front of me.
You're at 12:35. We're doing great.
May I
Well-
see the slide right before this one briefly again?
Yes, if I can figure out how to do it. How do I do that? Back arrow? That one?
Thank you.
Yeah, it says, sorry, I went through that fast. So when we are aware of our signals, our neural network starts breaking down, and that means we are changing and evolving.
Mhm.
We are actually rewiring the roots. Isn't this powerful?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, another thing for managing our mess. Obviously, we are sharing the awareness that we have, what we're learning about ourselves, what we're paying attention about ourselves, right? And don't stress about, I have to remember all 4 things. You can if you want, right? I don't want you to stress about that. Just as much as you can, try to pay attention. But what you can share in the moment, or when you're more calm or whatnot, just take that, you know, share that. Here's the deal. A lot of times kids, the way that they're wired is they assume that the world revolves around them. So when dad or mom or teacher gets upset, person of authority gets upset, they internalize it and take it personally. That's just how they're naturally wired. Most kids are that way. And honestly, most teenagers, even though they don't try to act like it, feel that way. And I would say most adults, a lot of internalizing it too. So the more that we can, when we are having our messy, extra messy moments, can give people context of what's going on. And when I say context, sharing that self-awareness, the more that they're going to not internalize it and not assume it's about them. And I'm telling you, this is such a game changer. It's such a small little thing, but I have noticed that when I use this in my relationships, even with adults, my communication style is so much more clear, and people are like, oh, I assumed. And you start having these conversations that you didn't have before. Like, I've been married to my husband, I don't know how many years, 20 plus years. And we're still learning about each other. I make so many assumptions about him. And the more I'm like being self-aware and sharing what's going on, the more he's like, oh, I assumed that for 23 years. I'm just like, I know, it's kind of embarrassing. But as much as you can, share this awareness with others, because it really models and gives them permission to experience these feelings, to experience this like feeling in their body, and these thoughts that just pop up that we're like, I'm so ashamed of this thought, but it's happening, right? Give them permission to experience it and explore it. All right. Sorry, let me go back. So this is just, again, giving that example. So, because I know for me, like the way I wrote this up for my brain. So this is, again, the example of, I'm a mess. I'm sorry. I was feeling overwhelmed and irritated. I came into the house and saw the mess, and my body did this. My perspective was, nobody's listening to me. And so I yelled and threw my purse, and I acknowledge and own my mistake. So if you want to screencast that to give you an example, there's that example again. All right. So Leanne, remember how I told you we're going to come back to this? So obviously that building that awareness, if you can, like, you almost have to train yourself to do this a little bit, right? And one way to train building your awareness is a great way as an adult is to have a dump right. That's what we call it. And it's not journaling. It's not like writing in pretty little complete sentences and all of that. It's just dumping on a piece of paper, as messy as you want, just like dump what is going on. Do not be pretty. Do not write in full sentences. You just dump. You just dump. I love this phrase: the page listens and does not judge. Therefore, you can tell it anything without fear.
Love it.
So just do this dump, okay? Make it as messy as you want. You can actually have a wall in your house if you want, and have people just like a blackboard and use chalk, or whatever you want. You can make this as pretty as you want, but I say just dump. And when you are dumping like this, you are actually taking the conscious and the unconscious mind, and you're helping them to work together. And I don't know if you know much about the unconscious mind, but it is constantly scanning the world to look for patterns. And a lot of times when we are triggered like that, you just react in a way, you're like, ooh, and you just react. It's the unconscious mind working. Is that, no, remember 23 years ago, we had this experience that was super scary. And so you need to protect yourself. And how you're going to protect yourself is do this. So the more you just dump, you're using both hemispheres of the brain. Also, when you've had trauma, whether it's minor trauma or substantial trauma, it's stored in one part of the brain. But when you're writing, you're accessing both parts of the brain. And that is when you are processing what's really going on. There's a technique called EMDR, and it's for trauma related. It's a counseling technique for people who've gone through trauma. And what's lovely about it is you don't have to talk about the trauma. Like if you had substantial trauma, you don't actually have to talk about it, but they will use sensory type of things to help access both parts of the brain so that you can just get it out. It's awesome. It's really, really good. Another way you can do it is art. It's using both parts of the brain. So just like draw pictures. If you don't want to write down words, or you have a 2-year-old, have them just like draw lines. The lines mean something to them, and it's accessing both parts of the brain. Kids that are a little bit older, you know, elementary, younger elementary, you can have them use puppets, or if most people don't do puppets anymore, but you can have like a little stuffed animal. And it's scary for kids to talk about their emotions. So a lot of times they have to project it onto something else to process the emotions. And so you can have them get their favorite animal and process what just happened and reenact it. And that is so good for kids to process what happened, how scary it was, the emotions, build that self-awareness. I was having thoughts that you were going to leave me, you know, like these scary thoughts for bedtime. If they're afraid, reenact the night with the animals. What is the process? What are some of the thoughts? What is our body feeling? You know,
One of the things that I learned from our older sister, Geraldine, she went to school to be a speech therapist, is when a child doesn't want to talk about it, have a puppet where they can open the mouth and close the mouth. Not one of those puppets where you can't, you know, maneuver the mouth. She said those are really not the kind to have for children, but if they can open it and close it, sometimes they will talk with the puppet as if the puppet's saying it and not themselves.
Yeah. And again, that modeling is so spot on. And again, it is scary for kids to talk about their emotions. So if they can project it, if you can read stories about it, if you can have them draw pictures of it, use externalizing things to represent it, that really helps them quite a bit. And honestly, as adults, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm freaking scared of my emotions. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this, you know? But the more that we can just build that awareness, we are building those coping strategies and rewiring our brain and changing our roots of things that have been happening in the past that come up and flare up and make things harder and more complicated. All right. So there's more strategies to give you. I've just shared just a couple, but I just want to say, if you're sitting here going, I don't have time for this. I don't have, I can't even get myself lunch because I'm so busy. You know, I don't have time for practicing coping strategy, building my awareness. Well, guess what? If we don't, that's when the messiness can be overwhelming. That's when we are so out of sync with ourselves that we are completely miserable. So I ask that, as important as brushing our teeth takes 2 minutes, right? Just take 2 minutes to be self-aware while you're doing the dishes, while you're driving your kids somewhere. Practice just that awareness of what's going on in my body. What's going on in my brain right now? What are some of my thoughts that are going on? Just practice being aware in the moment. How's my breathing right now? And the more you do that, the more you will find your resilience for problems that pop up will increase. And that modeling is going to be powerful for your kids. Powerful. Okay, so just to kind of summarize some of our nuggets of truth that we've all learned that we're all messes, and it's okay. We can pay attention to signals just a couple minutes a day. When we have moments that we feel extra messy, let's share the context with others. Let's let others know what's going on with you right now, internally, externally. And to help us build our resilience, we can also have these oils to help us immediately respond and be aware and process. And so create your little essential oil emergency kit to help with that. And that's what I have today.
Yay. Thank you so much, Deb. I learned from you some things that I've started to do self-development reading, and that few minutes of pausing and becoming aware has changed who I am. And so your words are so meaningful because they come from somebody who, okay, guys, when I'm talking, I don't sometimes feel like they're not coming from somebody that knows what they're saying. But I feel like when I'm listening to Deb, she knows her stuff. She is trained and And so when I hear your words say it, I'm like, I believe that. That's what I'm going through. That's it. That's the detail. Very, very meaningful. Thank you so much, Deb. Really
You bet. Thanks
appreciate
for this opportunity to share some just nuggets that I've learned over the years. So thank you guys for being here. You guys are amazing. You're amazing parents and grandparents. I know it never feels that way. No one ever tells us we're good parents, but you really are.
We're doing
And even
our
the
best.
fact that you're sitting here listening, I mean, clearly you are a phenomenal parent. So,
Want to learn.
and
Yeah,
grandparent.
some people in the chat have asked for the PowerPoint. Is it okay if I forward that? The PowerPoint you shared with me? Okay, so I need the email from in the chat from Lisa Schroeder, if you'd like that. And then the only other person I don't have the email of is, and I don't, oh, well, I lost her name there. So, okay. So Azarka, Bedgood. Anyway, if you want that, put your email in the chat and I will forward that to you along with the video, the recording of this. So we can, as I was watching, I thought, I need to watch this again. I need to get this into my head. So I love your words and your expertise. Thank you, Deb.
Thanks everyone for your time. I appreciate you.
Yep. Next Wednesday, we're going to be having Patty teach us a little bit about the endocrine system and hormones. So that'll be interesting. She has started a job, so I might have a recording of her, which will be interesting, but we'll figure out how to make that happen next Wednesday. And anybody that wants to stay on, we've got just a few minutes of business to have, and I'd love to have you stay on. Thanks so much, Deb, again.
Bye guys.
Love y'all. And okay, I'm getting the email. I'm going to stop recording.